On a sweltering Sunday afternoon in Hathras, Uttar Pradesh, a joyous religious gathering turned into a scene of unimaginable horror. Thousands of devotees had gathered at the Radharani temple for the annual Asthi Kalash Visarjan ceremony. This event, organized by the controversial spiritual leader Bole Baba, promised blessings and spiritual enlightenment. Instead, it delivered death and despair. The crush began shortly after 2:30 p.m. As the crowd swelled beyond capacity, panic set in. People pushed and shoved, desperately trying to escape. The narrow temple grounds became a death trap. Bodies piled up as people fell and were trampled. The air filled with screams of terror and pain. Official reports confirmed at least 38 deaths. Hundreds more were injured, many critically. The local healthcare system was overwhelmed. Ambulances wailed through the streets of Hathras, rushing the injured to hospitals. As night fell, the true scale of the tragedy became clear. The roots of this tragedy lay in poor planning, inadequate infrastructure, and overwhelming crowds. The Radharani temple, while revered, was never designed to accommodate such massive gatherings. Its narrow pathways and limited exits became deadly bottlenecks. Yet, the organizers, led by Bole Baba, had advertised the event widely, promising miracles and blessings to all who attended. By noon, the temple grounds were already packed beyond capacity. Still, more devotees arrived. There was no system in place to control the flow of people. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The crowd, already compressed and on edge, panicked. In the ensuing chaos, people were pushed, trampled, and crushed against walls and barriers. Local authorities were woefully unprepared. When the crush began, there was no coordinated response. At the center of this tragedy stands the enigmatic figure of Bole Baba. Born as Rajesh Kumar in a small village in Bihar, he rose to prominence as a spiritual leader in the early 2010s. His followers believe he possesses divine powers, capable of healing the sick and granting wishes. Critics, however, have long accused him of being a charlatan, exploiting the faith of the vulnerable for personal gain. Bole Baba. My devotees, I have always sought to bring spiritual enlightenment and healing to those in need. The accusations against me are baseless and driven by those who wish to tarnish my mission. Bole Baba's past is shrouded in controversy. In 2018, he faced allegations of sexual assault from multiple female devotees. Despite these controversies, his following continued to grow, particularly among the poor and marginalized sections of society. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Bole Baba vanished. In the days following the tragedy, the true human cost began to emerge. Families from across Uttar Pradesh and neighboring states converged on Hathras. They came seeking news of their loved ones, clinging to hope even as despair set in. The local administration set up a makeshift information center at the district hospital. Here, lists of the dead and injured were posted. The scenes were heartbreaking.
He was only 20. He went for blessings and now he's gone forever.
Her story was echoed by countless others. Fathers, mothers, children, all lost in a moment of chaos. The process of identifying and claiming bodies added to the family's trauma. Many victims were so badly injured that visual identification was impossible. DNA tests were required in several cases, prolonging the agony of waiting. For some families, closure remained elusive. The survivors of the Hathras tragedy carry with them memories that will haunt them for a lifetime. Their stories provide a chilling first-hand account of the horrors that unfolded that fateful day.
I was in the middle of the crowd when the pushing started. Suddenly I couldn't breathe. People were falling all around me. I saw a child being crushed right before my eyes. I thought I was going to die.
Many survivors spoke of the helplessness they felt in the face of the surging crowd.
It was like being caught in a human wave. You couldn't control your movements. I was lifted off my feet at one point. The screams. I'll never forget those screams.
Priya suffered broken ribs and severe bruising, but considers herself lucky to have survived. The psychological trauma of the event is evident in many survivors' accounts.
I was holding my wife's hand one moment, and the next she was gone. I couldn't find her in the chaos. I later learned she had been trampled to death. How do I go on living?
Mental health experts warn of long-term PTSD among survivors and witnesses. Some survivors expressed anger at the organizers and authorities.
We trusted Bole Baba. We came for blessings, not for this nightmare. Where were the police? Where was the crowd control? They are all responsible for this tragedy.
These testimonies not only provide crucial evidence for investigators, but also serve as a powerful indictment of the systemic failures that led to the disaster. In the wake of the tragedy, local and state authorities scrambled to respond. The Uttar Pradesh government immediately announced a high-level inquiry commission headed by a retired High Court judge. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath visited Hathras, promising swift action against those responsible.
No one will be spared. We will ensure justice for the victims and their families.
The police launched a manhunt for Bole Baba and his key associates. Raids were conducted at multiple locations across Uttar Pradesh and neighboring states. Senior police officials stated that Bole Baba would face charges of culpable homicide not amounting to murder, as well as violations of safety regulations. However, as days passed without any sign of the spiritual leader, questions began to arise about the effectiveness of the search operation. Local officials faced intense scrutiny for their role in the disaster. The district magistrate and superintendent of police were suspended pending investigation. The National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, also stepped in, issuing notices to the state government and police. As news of the tragedy spread, public outrage swept across India. Social media platforms were flooded with expressions of grief, anger, and demands for justice. Hashtags like #HathrasTragedy and #JusticeForVictims trended for days. People shared stories of the victims, putting faces to the numbers and humanizing the tragedy.
Protests erupted in several cities. In Delhi, hundreds gathered at Jantar Mantar, holding candles and placards demanding accountability. Similar scenes played out in Mumbai, Kolkata, and other major cities. The protesters' demands were clear: arrest Bole Baba, punish negligent officials, and implement stricter safety regulations for religious gatherings.
Civil society organizations and opposition parties joined the chorus of voices calling for action. The All India Democratic Women's Association, or AIDWAY, organized a fact-finding mission to Hathras. Their report highlighted systemic failures in crowd management and emergency response. Opposition leaders accused the government of trying to protect Bole Baba, alleging political connections. The Hathras tragedy brought the issue of public safety at large gatherings into sharp focus. Experts from various fields weighed in, pointing out the glaring lapses that led to the disaster. Dr. Ravi, a crowd management specialist, stated, "What happened in Hathras was entirely preventable. Basic crowd control measures were ignored." The lack of coordination between different agencies emerged as a key issue. Local police, fire services, and medical teams seemed to operate in silos, with no clear chain of command during the crisis. This led to crucial delays in the rescue efforts. Retired Police Commissioner S.K. Sharma commented, "In events of this scale, there needs to be a unified command structure." Infrastructure inadequacies also came under scrutiny. The venue's layout, with its narrow pathways and limited exits, was a disaster waiting to happen. Urban planner Neha emphasized the need for better design. Religious sites often evolve organically, but when they become centers for large gatherings, they need to be retrofitted with safety in mind. The debate highlighted the need for a comprehensive, modern approach to event safety. Behind the statistics and policy discussions lie the shattered lives of those directly affected by the tragedy. Families who lost loved ones face a future forever altered. The survivors, too, bear deep scars, both physical and emotional. Many face long roads to recovery. 18-year-old Anita Sharma suffered spinal injuries in the crush. Doctors say she may never walk again. "I had dreams of becoming a teacher," she said from her hospital bed. "Now I don't know what my future holds." Communities have also been profoundly affected. In the village of Naglabari, which lost 5 residents in the tragedy, the atmosphere is somber. "It's like a dark cloud has settled over us," said village elder Ramprasad. The psychological toll extends beyond those directly involved. Mental health professionals warn of a looming crisis. Suresh Yadav, who lost his wife and 2 children in the crush, said, "They were my whole world. Now I'm alone. How do I go on?" As India grapples with the aftermath of the Hathras tragedy, there is a growing consensus that sweeping reforms are needed to prevent similar disasters in the future. The incident has sparked a national conversation about public safety, the regulation of religious gatherings, and the broader issue of crowd management in a country where large assemblies are commonplace. One key area identified for reform is the permitting process for large gatherings. The human cost of the Hathras tragedy, it seems, cannot be measured in numbers alone. Like and share the video, subscribe the channel.